What job would you never accept, regardless of the salary? Story 1. Honestly, I could never be a telemarketer. The idea of calling people and interrupting their day to sell them something they don't want sounds like torture. I can't even handle making phone calls to order pizza without getting anxious, let alone trying to convince strangers to buy stuff. Plus, dealing with angry people all day, no amount of money would make that worth it. Story 2. A friend of mine is an executive admin for 3 C-level executives. I used to be envious of her salary, something like $90K after bonuses, but then I started noticing how her life was not her own. Remember the scene in Devil Wears Prada when Miranda calls demanding her canceled flight get changed during a hurricane, or when she demanded the newest unpublished Harry Potter book, or rattled off instructions like, "Find me that little piece of paper I had in my hand the other day." Multiple that by 3, and make at least one of them a huge man-baby millionaire who couldn't operate a coffee maker if you took his hand and pressed his finger on the start button for him. Add another who made multi-billion-dollar decisions on the daily but couldn't order socks for himself on Amazon. You get the idea. We were all out on a Saturday around midnight, and she got a call from one of them asking if so-and-so has sent a certain email yet. That's when I realized there wasn't enough money in the world to get me to do it. And even if there was, I wouldn't last a week. For a brief moment in time, I was internet famous on another website. I didn't seek it out. It just kind of happened because I liked posting and I was just having fun. But then I started noticing people talking about me. They talked about me as though they knew me. They had opinions about me, even though I knew absolutely nothing about them. It freaked me out in a way that I can't properly describe. My fame even followed me onto other platforms where I used the same name, not this one, thank heavens, and that freaked me out even more. I don't know why anyone would want to be famous. It's completely unnerving to me, and I am not okay with it. Story 6. Casino dealer, because of the absolutely disgusting people who frequent the table games. I've been playing for more than 20 years and have never, not once, seen a person wash their hands well in the restrooms. Many times they just walk right out and start handling the casino chips that the dealer then ends up touching. Then, as bad or even worse, are the inconsiderate people who will sit there at the table with a cigarette and let the smoke directly into the dealer's face. No amount of money would make me consider such a sad existence. Story 7. At the risk of sounding sanctimonious, pharmaceutical development. I received a summer research fellowship from one of the big pharma companies. They held a little conference for us in the fall to present our research and also to try to recruit us to the field. I vividly remember a presentation given about one of their current projects. At the end of the talk, someone in the audience said, "Hey, have you guys considered that this mode of action might cause XYZ damage to the kidneys after prolonged use?" The researcher said, "We've considered it, but we only get the answers to the questions that we ask. So we haven't asked that question." He also cited that this is too far down the pipeline to worry about that now. That rocked me to my core. Yes, pharmaceuticals do a world of good. The fact that a COVID vaccine was developed and rolled out so quickly is nothing short of miraculous. But I never would be able to work on developing a medication that I knew full well might cause further medical issues for the patients taking it, no matter the salary. So now I am a lab manager in an academic laboratory. Underpaid, perhaps, but I love my job and sleep well at night. Story 8. Door-to-door sales. I hate sales with a burning passion, and we found the one way to somehow make it even more miserable. Jump an S-van full of strangers, drive to some random town or neighborhood, then be outside all evening rain or shine, while harassing people while they're trying to have dinner. It's the worst. Story 9. Underwater welder. Quite a bit of underwater life can grow as large as the environment can support. So when you have a creature that discovers it can filter feed next to a turbine or something, it can grow way past what is commonly held to be their maximum size. Forgive me the hyperbole, but I'd rather not encounter a catfish the size of a St. Bernard. Fun fact, the maximum size of insects is determined by the amount of oxygen in the air. So, if you doubled or tripled the amount of oxygen in the environment, they'd also get bigger. Job I'll never do again. Help desk, desk-side support for CCC-level employees and VIPs at a bilingual corporation. Bunch of entitled assholes. I learned your language. At least learn how to say thank you in mine. Story 10. Any job that involves working with people, whether it's with the disabled, mentally ill, prisoners, customer service, restaurant servers, nursing home staff, group home workers, or troubled teens, can be incredibly challenging. The list goes on. And dealing with humans can be extremely difficult. No thank you to being a servant to any human. The pay is unacceptable and grossly underpaid. Story 11. Debt collection. There is no way that I would want to spend every day calling people that are having financial problems and trying to get money from them. It was different when I worked for a debt consolidation company. People actually reached out to us and we actually were able to help them. But then they changed the legislation and people were able to do what we did without our help. Story 12. I have a pretty long list, however. I'm also 53, so at this point in my life, not looking for anything difficult. Anything outdoors. It seems awesome when the weather is nice, but when the weather is crappy, blech. Actually, any manual labor. I was looking into welding, shortest schooling for a manual labor, but researching it and found it totally trashes your body. My body is already trashed. I work at an electrical distributor and we get a lot of new hires that had to quit construction as their body had enough. Anything in the water. I love scuba diving, but don't intend to do anything more than recreational. My instructor is a fireman, and he told me how he has to dive in rivers with no visibility and have to find stuff based on touch. Anything in the service industry. People so shit on those people. I volunteer for various orgs, and sometimes we man a beer booth, and it's the worst. I'm sure there are more, but I have not had my coffee yet. FYW, I currently work in IT. It's pretty easy. I get paid above my lifestyle requirements, and I work from home. Work-life balance could not be better. Story 13. Being a header on a shrimp boat. The smells of shrimp and diesel on a hot rock rocking boat almost guarantees seasickness. If you fall off the back of the boat, you have to deal with sharks and other predatory fish that follow the boat to feast on the shrimp heads. Story 14. Finance manager at a dealership. I suppose maybe they aren't all like this, but from what I can tell, they make most of their money from getting you to buy worthless crap. Extended warranty tire insurance, tornado insurance in an area with no tornado, stuff like that. All of them that I've worked with were complete gold-hearted bastards, bragging after ripping someone off. Story 15. Traveling sales. Did it once for a minute because it was the only place to offer me a job after being unemployed for months. Only job I've voluntarily left with no new job or backup plan in place. Thankfully, the gods took pity on me, and I found a regular 9-5 within a couple weeks. Overall, sales, customer service relations, and food service are the three fields I flat out refuse to work in. Story 16. Police officer, beat cop. Eventually, you're going to see someone whose license plate has been expired 6MO, and they're just trying to get back and forth to work. I couldn't live with myself if I had to tow their car. Eventually, some slumlord will call you out to evict someone. I couldn't live with making someone homeless. I'm already misanthropic. Seeing the worst of people would just confirm my pessimism. I could see being a detective or some form of specialist, but I would never do standard police work. Story 17. Correctional officer. Have too many friends and family that are soul-crushed by it. Permanent injuries, massive depression and stress, weight gain, inability for regular schedule of sleep, too much overtime to try and have some semblance of fun on days off. Story 18. I worked fast food for my first job. It wasn't that bad, but I'll never work in a fast food place again. Going home smelling like the fryer was poured on me. The smell of sour milk on your clothes. This particular place had ice cream and all that goes along with that. Just ruined sneaker. Never again. I'd be homeless and live under an overpass before I'd work in any fast food place again. Story 19. Currently looking for work in fiber splicing and installation. Every job offered starts at $35K a year without experience, up to $60K with experience. Story 3. I met a woman at a party last weekend that told me she was in HR and expanded into how she helps set up social worker types for failure. The entire next day, I thought about how miserable a person you have to be to do that for work. Every one of these jobs are 50% to 100% travel to remote areas without any physical assistance. Let me repeat. They plan on sending someone with next to no experience. It takes 3-5 years of hands-on experience to be considered competent, to areas requiring an overnight stay. You'll be effectively a contractor, using your own vehicle and equipment. They plan on reimbursing you for mileage and boarding, but I'm curious who pays for insurance and supplies. But you'll rarely spend a night home wherever that is. For $35K a year, I have 25 years experience, including teaching certifications. By contrast, the few times I set up a huge multi-month contract, we offered $2,000 a week. Story 20. Basically any job with rotating shift work. I work at a nuclear plant where all of operations, security, and a few other positions will work 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. a few days, then 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for several days and back and forth. They get paid very well, especially when picking up overtime shifts, but it puts a lot of stress on your body, your relationships, eating habits, etc. Story 21. I would never accept a job that involves causing harm to others or violating ethical principles regardless of the salary. For instance, working in a role that promotes or perpetuates discrimination, exploitation, or any form of injustice would be unacceptable. Even if the pay was substantial, the impact on people's lives and well-being is too significant to overlook. Ensuring that work aligns with one's values and contributes positively to society is crucial for long-term satisfaction and integrity. Story 22. Something I've actually done. A job working directly for the owner of one of my favorite sports franchises. Love the franchise, hate the owner because of his behavior and the way he exploits the fans, and would have been in a position to do a lot of damage. Sent in my resume when I saw the opening because from what I read, it was basically a dream job. But they didn't explain until the first call that he would be one of the people I'd be responsible for supporting. My own personal code of ethics meant I had to decline. Story 23. Anything that involves putting myself in danger. Like, for example, I almost took a coal mining job in my old town. 37 HR and I don't need a degree. Would be great. Then an old family friend lost a family member, their brother, IRC, due to a collapse, and I immediately said, nah, I'll scrub toilets, that's fine. Story 24. I would do nasty jobs or jobs involving heights, albeit it would have to be a lot of money, but TBH, a nurse. Defo not roasting them. In fact, they are essential to the fabric of my country, USA. Story 4. I simply cannot care for people who are hurting, dying, or about to die. I'm not heartless. I care about those people, but I would be the absolutely wrong person to care for those people. Nurses are an absolutely special type of people. Story 25. Teacher. I don't have the patience, mostly for the incompetent parents of children. It makes me irrationally angry, up to interpretation, when they expect teachers to parent their children. They ignore their children at home, then get upset when they get called in for the child is being repeatedly disruptive in class. I'd end up in jail in my first meeting. Children are also cesspools of disease that I am fairly certain my immune system couldn't fight against LOA. Story 26. I work in packaging. There's this job I've seen before at mass slaughterhouses. We are talking 15,000 cow a day. The hides are taken off of the cow, then washed in a salt bath to get the blood off, and for some other reasons. After this, they have employees who have to fold and stack pallets of these wet hides. It's usually about the same temperature as it is outside, maybe a little AC. And so you are in this room where it smells like death and it's super steamy, and you have to manually fold soaking wet, freshly dead cow hides. That is the job I wouldn't do for sure. Story 27. Tax inspector or traffic warden. Yep, I know two sure things, death and taxes, but here in the UK anyway, HMRC go unchallenged and employ zealots. Irony being UK law is innocent till proven guilty, across the board, with the exception of tax affairs where you have to prove your innocence, sometimes at great cost, as you are assumed guilty. Story 28. The guy that tells people their health insurance won't cover something. When I was desperate for a job, a company I applied for said they weren't interested in me for what I actually applied for, but offered that and I couldn't do it. I couldn't imagine anything more soul-killing than that. Story 29. As an entry-level engineer, my red lines are oil, gas, and civilian gun companies. The former is because of the line of work, and the latter because I imagine those are incredibly toxic workplaces, plus the line of work a little bit. Defense contracting depends on what I'm doing and who I'm doing it for. Story 30. I'll go homeless before I ever work in fast food again. It's crazy to me people think they don't deserve more pay or look down on people who have done fast food work long term. You should fear people who have worked in fast food for a decade. That level of mental strength is next level. Working on high-tension power lines. Story 31. I was once offered a position running the payroll for a law firm that specialized in debt collection. I would only be doing the payroll for the people working for the firm and was told multiple times that I would never, under any circumstances, work with clients or anyone outside of the firm. The pay was good and there was room for advancement, but I felt like it would just be bad karma to work in debt collection in any capacity. My wife agreed with me, so I turned the job down. TLDR. Any job in debt collection. Story 32. Corporate office workers of soda pop, candy, fast food, especially with the rising prices over the past few years, blaming it on inflation. They've helped destroy America and have begun to ruin other countries over the past 50 years, with diseases and obesity statistics higher than ever before, all the while inflating their thousands of dollars on a computer screen of digital money they cannot withdraw without banks going into a panic. Story 33. Corporate office workers of soda pop, candy, fast food, especially with the rising prices over the past few years, blaming it on inflation. They've helped destroy America and have begun to ruin other countries over the past 50 years, with diseases and obesity statistics higher than ever before, all the while inflating their thousands of dollars on a computer screen of digital money they cannot withdraw without banks going into a panic. Story 34. Honestly, assembly line work. The same repetitive task over and over. Many years ago, I got a job through a temp agency. Basically sit in a little booth with a table and an unprotected 60W light bulb. I got a big stack of vehicle gauge clusters, basically the background of your speedometer slash tachometer slash etc. Pick one up, hold it in front of the light bulb, look for any pinholes or abnormal light leakage. If okay, put it in another stack. Repeat. I took an early lunch and never went back. Story 35. Any job that unnecessarily exploits animals. I gave up an internship in college because I could have participated in animal testing of mice that was very cruel. So things like selling animals, animal products, animal testing, etc. would never be something I get into. Story 36. Fast food industry. They don't turn them off unless there's something seriously wrong, so you're shimmying along on top of live wires, carrying enough juice to power cities. Apparently, the current is enough to make your skin tingle even through the protective gear. These companies are a huge driving force for pollution and climate change. They are extremely unhealthy and contributing to obesity and other preventable diseases. Their business model isn't set up to pay its workers a living wage. If your business model can't pay your already understaffed locations a decent, livable wage, then your business model sucks and needs serious restructuring. I also understand that fast food can play a huge role in feeding hungry people cheaply, so I'm not going to say that every fast food chain has to go, but they should be abiding by the same health laws they have to abide by in Europe and Asia, and they should fully or partially automate. If partially automated, they could afford to pay a living wage. Story 5. Any job that entails being famous.